Welcome everyone. I'm Lauren Hawkins. Thanks for tuning in with us to Spirituality Adventures. We are so glad you're here and we're very excited about the content we get to share with you through our blogs and podcasts. Spirituality Adventures is made possible by your support. One way you can support us is by liking, following, subscribing, or sharing any of these podcasts or blogs that you like. Another way you can support us is by going to our website, www.spiritualityadventures.com. There you can click the support tab and you can sign up for a monthly subscription or a one-time gift. We appreciate all your support. Now here's Fred.
Welcome everybody to Spirituality Adventures. This is a non-judgmental place to explore spirituality. And this episode, we are so blessed to have Jeremy Cline and Riley Corbin with us today.
Hello.
Yes. Thank you guys for coming. They are with a band called Faintheart. And our friend Ben Went is actually the one that says, you got to do an interview with Faintheart. And so I was like, well, tell me about them, you know? And so now I've been listening to Faintheart for a while, and I got Faintheart running through my head. So it's always great to meet the guys who write the songs that you're listening to and that you start singing to and all that kind of stuff. So thanks for joining us. Why don't we get a little backstory first with you guys, like where you're from, where you grew up, and tell us about, you know, with the other guys in the band. Yeah. Because we got two of you here out of, what, 4?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. So give us a little backstory. Your growing up years.
You should go first.
Yeah, I'll go first.
Yeah.
So again, thanks for having us, Fred. So yeah, it's just two of us. So I think we'll just speak for our experience, not the collective royal we of Faintheart. So my name's Jeremy. I play bass, write a lot of the lyrics with Tanner, who's our vocalist. We're actually both from South Central Kansas. So I'm from a very small town outside of Wichita. And I actually grew up Catholic. Well, that's mostly true. So actually started Methodist. My parents are actually in like an intrafaith marriage. So my mom's Methodist, my dad's Catholic. Kind of was like Methodist, and then did my whole confirmation, everything into Catholicism around my teenage years, like 13 or so. And then just played in a lot of local bands, you know, growing up. I was definitely a tooth and nail kid, because that's what the family Christian bookstores stocked, and that's like, you know, what I was allowed to get. You know, obviously no parental advisory stuff, you know. My parents liked music. Mom, I think definitely maybe a little bit more so. Like, we're a big Beach Boys family. And John Denver, definitely John Denver. But you know, just in the family Christian bookstore, it'd be like, you know, it's like, oh, you like Green Day? You'll love MXPX.
the poster.
There's that chart, and it just lives like rent free in my mind.
Which now I'm like, they should make a new one that goes the opposite way. Like, you liked this band, you know. It would trend well.
That's good. That's good meme content.
Yeah.
You know, a big part about being a band now is like it's all about the memes.
Yeah, the internet's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I've done that up before, but somebody do it. You know.
Yeah.
If I won't.
Matt, feel free to join in. Our awesome videographer is.
We saw the
here with us
chariot
as well.
sticker. So long live.
I think probably before this, John was on the podcast, and he's my neighbor, and I was a big
Yeah, that's a good transition.
Me growing up, I grew up in Denver, and then also in Phoenix. Like, when I was like 10, moved down to Phoenix. And
tell me about how big Phoenix is.
5th largest city, I think.
I'm gonna speak like really, like, I feel like in the Midwest, like, Phoenix just doesn't compute. Like, really? I mean, I've been in the airport, but like, I don't think of it as a big city. I know it's huge.
It's really spread out.
Yeah.
Well, and it's been one of the fastest growing cities for like 2-3 decades straight.
Yeah.
And so it did start as a small town. And I mean, when I used to go to Phoenix when I was a long time ago, it was actually not a big town, but golly, it's just sprawl.
And it's crazy because people are like, there used to be like citrus orchards all around this area, and now it's completely developed. Like, just spread all the way through. But
you fly in and everything's brown, and then you see where the water sprinklers are. It's
totally. And the pools, all the pools.
Yeah, and the pools everywhere.
But yeah, so I was in Phoenix for a while, and I think the context for Faintheart in the band is that we all met. I went to school in Kansas, in Manhattan, where I met all these guys who have kind of known each other in different circles, mostly from Wichita. Hunter, our drummer, grew up in a really small town
Like
called
Western Kansas.
Pretty Prairie. For anyone
Which
who knows
is that the town?
Pretty Prairie.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I don't even know that one.
Oh,
No way. They have a restaurant that his parents, grandparents are involved in.
Were they like ranchers or farmers or like
I don't know.
Nah,
This
just
is definitely a
curious.
Hunter question.
Like,
I always
yeah,
call
like-
him the Prince of Pretty Prairie because we've been there a couple times, and it's always like everyone's like Hunter.
They're stoked.
Yeah, I think their claim to fame is the restaurant is like Alfalfa
Alfalfa
from Little Rascals.
Oh,
is
wow.
from Pretty Prairie also. It's Alfalfa then Hunter, really.
do they have a bar?
Yeah, his parents
Yeah.
own
You get
that
a- you get a-
restaurant area.
Play in the bar?
We've done that before.
But it's like not a bar. It's like a restaurant that has like a counter.
Anyone who's been in a small town in Kansas knows that it's like you either have a Walmart, the restaurant in the next 3 cities.
Oh,
or
I would
like-
say like that. The Walmart is definitely not in your town. You maybe have like a Casey's. You
Yeah,
know?
but there's like these congregate little towns like that.
Yeah.
But Hunters was the restaurant town, and his family is a part of that restaurant, or was recently. I think it changed hands. But yeah, so we've played there before. I think there was a poster that was like Hunter Owens band Faintheart is coming to
So
play,
good.
and it was just like Hunter's face, and then our band. Stuff.
Yeah, we don't matter.
But yeah, so Hunter's from a small town. I think he grew up listening to a lot of Beach Boys too, and so I think we all
Talk
have,
a lot about Thriller.
Yeah, it's true. But that's Hunter, me from Phoenix, the Chariot transition.
So this is a long chain.
It's hard to speak for other people that aren't here, but being from Phoenix, there was like this, I don't know, coming of age for me almost when it came to music. I was involved in church music for a super long time. And like you were saying, like growing up where it was like, these are the bands you can't listen to. This is like the kind of music that's good.
So
or
tell me,
safe.
like, what kind of church music? Because man, church music can be
totally.
all over
Because
the
I
map.
have a Catholic, mass.
Right.
There's just an organ or
Right,
piano,
exactly.
guitar, like that. Nothing
I mean,
else.
what kind of church music?
So for me, like, grew up in like Baptist circles in Denver, and then my family wasn't really involved in church or anything. Like, I would say they were more like try to go when they could. It wasn't as big of a deal. But we get to Phoenix, and there's like a big mega church out there, and my friend's like, hey, you should come with us. And like we go there, and that's kind of when I even started like being interested in playing music. Was
Okay.
Going to one of these like just like non-denominational churches that were just playing like rock music, where this was like Hillsong United Prime.
There you go.
Where it was like
All right.
big guitars,
Yeah.
like really trying to rock your face off kind of stuff. And this church having like the money to do that and try to just basically replicate that for youth and children's services, and being like, that's really cool. I want to do that.
There you go.
And being like, I'm going to go get lessons and learn how to play. And then, being raised in that kind of circles where all the musicians that were playing, being like, these are the music I'm listening to, and being educated that way. And I think we talked about like what your parents' influences were. For me, it was like, my dad was really big into Southern rock and blues. So like I was raised on, there's like a Buddy Guy live album that I really remember a lot that I'm super big into from when I was a kid. Love B.B. King. My dad got really big into Joe Bonamassa when he was coming up.
Yeah.
Really like
Joe's
him.
good.
Yeah, he is good. And then like the Allman Brothers, Government Mule, stuff
Right.
like that. So that was like,
That's some good music.
guitar.
I was gonna say, if we're talking Joe's, I also feel like your dad would really be into like Joe Satriani,
Kind of. We had the records. Like we
Yeah.
have Satriani. My dad's
and then like
claim-
Steve Vai.
Jason,
He's
if
"Man,
you're watching this."
they put a handle in this guitar.
Well, no. So that's the funny thing. Jason's claim to fame is that
Oh, wait, yes, I know this. Okay.
So he was a limo driver. This is my dad, and he was a limo driver, and he drove Steve Vai around for an entire week as his limo driver when he
Whoa.
was in Denver. And so my dad always talks about how just like he was such a cool guy. And for my dad, I think he never really been exposed to a lot of differing faith people. And Steve Vai is a Buddhist, and was like he was really cool, and like being exposed to him was interesting for him. And he talks about the story where like they're passing a high school, and someone knew it was Steve Vai somehow, and like stopped it.
What a nerd.
And it was like it was a dad that stopped him.
What a nerd.
It was one of the dads of a student. He was like, "Hey, my son loves you. Would you come like meet him at school?" And so Steve was like, "Yeah, Jason, do we have time?" And my dad's like, "Yeah, I guess." And so he's like, "Get in the car," and they go to this kid's school, get out, and go meet the son. And it just was super memorable for my dad. But yeah, Steve I was definitely one of those in the house kind of things too. But yeah, my dad, music lover, feel like they passed it down. And then Nora Jones for my mom.
Oh,
There's the Come Away With Me album.
Yeah.
I still listen to that
that's great.
all the time.
I love that album.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, I've Kansas City guy, and the jazz scene. I love to go to the Blue Room. You can, I've got jazz friends that are musicians, and so they've kind of helped me understand the whole history of jazz in America, and just love that stuff. So I have frequented the Blue Room for years. And, but Nora Jones, kind of, she's got that interesting Robbie Shinecar as her dad, and just crazy influences in her life. She's an interesting gal. So I think she's out of New York, though. I think, right? I think so. Anyway,
that sounds
I
right.
wish I knew,
Yeah.
and I feel like I should be a better fan to know that.
I mean, like the last bar that we went to, like pre-pandemic, was actually a friend on tour, and it's so funny to think about now. So this was like March 9th, 2020, and our friend played Record Bar, so downtown Kansas City, like 350 cap room, oversold.
Yeah.
So there's probably like 380 people in there. He plays, and we go down the street to the Green Lady Lounge.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Had a drink.
Good one.
We were all just discussing about how
we were like sharing cocktails and stuff. And he's
yeah.
like, "Man, I think some of these dates are getting canceled because of this."
But even being in like that Kansas City's a jazz city, and sitting there, and I remember very
There was a band
specifically,
playing,
there was a band playing, and then our friend looking over and being like, "I think these guys are better than us playing down at the Record Bar," and like there's just these cats that are playing in the middle of the week. And I was like,
City's got some good musicians.
They do.
They really do.
And I feel like I really want to know more about the jazz history and
it's fun.
The scene. And
it's really fun to learn. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much richness in Kansas City that I don't think people know about.
Mm-hmm. It's a great town.
It really is.
That's why I stayed.
Totally.
That's why I was thinking about, after I went through what I went through, I was thinking about, I need to get out of this town. But I thought, no, this is my town, man. So anyway.
It's town. I mean, I picked it. Like I was
it's like I picked it too, and it's kind of one of those things too. You're like, my troubles are just gonna follow me.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the setting might change.
Can't run from it.
Right. Might as well pick somewhere I think is cool.
Yeah. Awesome. So all kind of the other guys are Kansas guys, though.
Yes.
We're all kind of from the same area.
Interesting. So how did you guys meet, the four of you?
Yeah. So we actually all met in Manhattan. Actually, me and Hunter. So the
Manhattan,
drummer,
Kansas.
Yeah, Manhattan, Kansas. Not cool enough to be like, lower Manhattan. Hunter, our drummer, and I both went to K-State, and then Tanner, our singer, and Riley went to Manhattan Christian College, and we actually played in a different band, the three of us, and then that band kind of just dissolved, and we picked up Riley into that and started. Well, there's a little bit of crossroads. We're like, do we keep the name going? And it was just like, Riley was like, no, guys, stop being dumb.
Which is funny because Jeremy's telling the story. The story really goes.
Yeah. I'm trying to make myself look better here.
My perspective was like, they had been playing in a band for a while together, and I think they had a few member changes throughout it. And I think it was basically like your college band that you guys were going out and like fairly successful in the area, playing more like some country adjacent for a minute, and then moved into like
just the emo. It was a really weird shift.
Yeah, into more like rock-ish stuff. And I think there was a point where you guys were playing some shows, and like I'm a little bit younger than everybody else in the band, and so they were kind of towards the end of their college time, and I was just starting mine. And they were like, "Hey, like I know you're a musician. We have this gig coming up. Do you want to come play bass with us?" And I was like, growing up in the church scene and having played mostly stuff where I wasn't really allowed to play bar gigs at all because of what I was involved in, they were like, yo.
I didn't tell them when we like primarily obviously like play bars and like clubs and stuff. I was like, hey man, can you come play bass for us? Actually, we're playing in Des Moines, so it'll be
maybe
cool.
I filled in and assumed some gaps that I was like, oh yeah, this is what we're doing. I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. I really want to do that. And turns out it was like a worship conference. halfway through, I'm like, oh, this
not
is
only a
so
worship,
fun.
not only a worship conference, it was an Easter Sunday where like 4 churches came together and had one giant Easter service at the Iowa State Fairgrounds.
Which I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter how it happened, but it was like they hired like this basically country band to play worship
I don't know.
music for
I don't
their,
know
like,
how it
conference.
happened.
I don't know
It was
either.
all through Tanner.
Regardless, this whole thing happens. We get back, and then they're like, "Hey, we're gonna take some photos. Riley, you want to be in them?" I'm like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Yeah, come on! Like, you should be in our band now." That's kind of how it happened.
Yeah, we
There
made
you
it
go.
official.
And then I was like,
There
we
we
should
go.
change and move on and do different things. But
So
that's
yeah,
kinda where
long
it
story
started.
short, met in college bands, changing members. You know,
Yeah. So did the other 2 guys grow up like in church backgrounds? Like were
so Tanner,
Yeah.
similar. So like, I'm from like a small town, and he's from, or like I'm from the smaller town, and then he's from the small town outside of, well, it's like basically a Wichita suburb, but same thing. Like grew up like bigger church, like playing guitar in church.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So all of you grew up in homes where you like your music was screened by your parents, like you couldn't listen to certain things, that kind of stuff.
I don't think Hunter was.
Yeah, actually, but I've known Hunter for like Hunter and I actually met at band camp in Western
Okay.
Kansas.
Okay.
Right.
When we were in junior high.
There you
so
go.
I've known Hunter for like a super long time. But yeah, I don't think his was, but I think Tanner's like similar thing with like, you know, it's
Yeah.
like tooth and nail kids, right?
Yeah.
You know?
I think it was just a
Interesting.
common time is like censorship.
Yeah, and I think
coming
yeah,
from certain
when I think of
backgrounds.
Yeah.
like that whole like kind of 90s, early 2000s like evangelical culture, like I remember watching like Left Behind, you know, it was like a family.
Oh, you
and
watched that? Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I didn't. You know, the end times anxiety is real.
My sister was just talking about the older version of the movie
movies,
that scared the hell out of the kids.
Totally.
Yeah.
It was called Thief in the Night,
Oh yeah, yeah.
which if you watch it now, it's like as cheesy as can be. But my sister literally just brought that movie up last night to me. She was
It
like,
terrifies all
yeah,
kids.
It's like I
Yeah.
was scared. I
How
was
could
going
you
to hell.
not? How could you not?
She knew she was out. She's going to hell. You know. So
we made a joke too. It was just like, yeah, and then they made a kids version.
And then they're like, idea, Left Behind for kids.
let's target them because let's double down on this. Like,
And
we
dude,
know
and
they're
it's
interested.
like whatever. We'll just get into it. But it's like, and not only hell, but it's like eternal conscious torment. You know, which was the version of hell I grew up with. You know, so
I mean, regardless,
Yeah.
I think as far as music and like being censored and having those different things, I think it's interesting because each of
I think it's
us
just
have
culture
just
at
different
large.
taste.
Yeah.
But each of us have different taste. But I think that's also one thing that kind of we all share some of those bands from that kind of censorship that were the okay ones to listen
Reliant
to.
K,
And like,
Switchfoot.
yeah, we say
Yeah.
Reliant K, Switchfoot, like, and I think it influences some of what we like in music, but also is like pushing against things that we enjoy and being like, okay, cool. Now we're going to listen to things that are like we weren't supposed to listen to, and like learn from it and bring it into what we play.
So what were some of the things you were listening to that you weren't supposed to listen to?
I remember the first parental advisory CD I bought was Boxcar Racer, which was like the Blink 182 like side project. But yeah, I mean Blink 182 was like a very formative band for me. But yeah, I actually like had all my parental advisory CDs like in junior high. They're in like a box under my bed, like hiding it like it's like porn or something.
Yeah, I was
you
gonna
know?
say, it's like, yeah, these
It's
are
like
my
the same-
dirty magazines.
Yeah.
This is my dirty CDs.
Yeah. And it's like Blink
I
182
love
singing about
Blink 182.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
Blink
Yeah.
singing about like wieners, you know, like you're just like
I remember my mom. So my best friend, he had bought the Fall Out Boy album. I don't even know which one it was. It was the like most popular.
can tell.
one. Yes, you know which one it was. I didn't get to listen to it, so I don't know which one it is.
Yeah.
Because he had it, and he was like, "Yeah, you should listen to this." My mom literally listened to the whole thing, and like, I get it. Some of the lyrical content is like rough, and we were younger. She's like, "Nah, you can't listen to this." And I think that moment sticks out to me, and I don't like hold it over my parents' head at all.
No,
They're
same.
just trying to figure it out.
yeah.
And it's hard to know like what should kids be able to listen to and how do you expose them to things. But
And even
I remember that moment, and then that's when it became like, yeah, I was telling you earlier. Here's your iPod, like
Oh yeah.
fill it with. I remember getting in trouble for having an MP3 player.
Well, so yeah, we had burned CDs too.
Yeah,
And
Right.
then so it's like you could get around the parental advisory because you would just have a CDR that says, you know, whatever, Blink 182, and there's no parental advisory label on it. But yeah, I guess I was even just thinking about that as you were saying it. It was just like, just think about the anxiety of parents, though. Like, if it's just like, you can't mess up your kid. So, of course, you're going to be like, I probably should make sure you're not listening to, like, something terrible for an 11-year-old, you know?
Yeah. Just so interesting.
Like rap music, maybe.
Yeah, you know.
But that's another thing.
Yeah.
As in my, this is so funny. I don't feel like we've ever had this conversation formally between us.
The
where it's
Eminem
like,
show.
Bro, Hunter loves Eminem.
I love Eminem.
He's great. But that moment of like, rebelling for me was also expanding my music taste. And remember in high school, it's like, I'm going to learn about rap and hip hop that I enjoy. And like, I feel like it just expounded my music taste from there.
I just interviewed a local Kansas City rapper.
Oh, great.
Ooh, which one?
His name's King Kie.
Okay.
He's networked with all the rappers in Kansas City.
Sure.
Has
run
a hip hop.
Like Strange Crew and whatnot. Or?
Yeah, I mean Matt could probably tell you the names of them more than I could, but he's run a hip hop club. But I met him at my church years ago.
Yeah.
And he had a Straight Outta Compton T-shirt on, and I went, hey, what'd you think about that movie? And I think he was surprised that I'd watched it. For one thing, you know, I'm this mega church, white mega church pastor, you know, and he's got his, you know, And I said, well, because I thought that was a good movie.
It's
and
really
he thought,
good.
I asked him if he thought it was historically accurate.
Sure.
Right.
But yeah, so his music, he was. It's you should check it out though. It's really good.
I love that.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Will. I just feel like
he's very good, and he actually did some rap for me at the church. He actually wrote some stuff.
That's awesome.
But his stuff is definitely in that genre. And,
I love that.
Yeah, it's great. It's good stuff. So so that's kind of fun though to think about all of that. It's funny because I grew up, my parents didn't screen my music, and I got into prog rock.
Okay.
Like Kansas and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Yes and all these prog rock bands. Those were my early bands.
Great bands.
That I still love. But then I was doing drugs, and then I got saved, and then I started hearing youth pastors talk about how these bands were backmasking their albums, like
Satanic Panic, baby.
If you played them backwards, that like it had like subtle like messages that were going to corrupt you. So I mean, I was a teenager, and like I thought, oh well, crap, I better get rid of them. So I got rid of my whole album collection.
Yeah. Which,
like several years later, I went, crap, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I want those albums back, right?
Yeah. And it's not cheap.
And I really didn't when I started Vineyard. I didn't put that into the culture of the church, and so our music guys, we were always listening to everything, and I don't know, but anyway, I mean, I'm sure some of my parents did it to their kids, but like I was hanging out with musicians, and we were always listening to everything.
I also just think there's just like like secular, religious, Christian music, whatever. There's I just think there's spirituality and all like creativity and
totally.
I say this often, but like I love Death Cab for Cutie.
That's one of our
You're
top
like speaking
influences.
our love language.
And I think the lead guy says he's an atheist. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not 100% sure. I wouldn't want to put that on him, but I think I've heard that. But I'm thinking, God, this guy's writes some of the most spiritual songs I've ever heard.
So contemplative too.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Like Soul Meets Body. And all that stuff. It's just anyway. I love their stuff. But at any rate, it's I didn't put that in the culture, but parents did. I mean, I remember when Harry Potter came out, and parents were asking me.
That was a weird one.
They didn't want to let their kids read Harry Potter, and I said, well, I was like going, just read it with them, and then just talk about it.
Totally.
That's what we did.
Because if you don't, they're going to read it anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. How could you not?
Who's not going to read Harry Potter?
It was culture.
It was huge.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that you even say it that way, because like
I love that. Yeah.
What a healthy way to approach anything. They're just saying like, why don't you just experience it with them, and then you guys can talk about it. Yeah. Because I feel like my experience was kind of different. It was just like, we just want to talk about it, and I was cool. But
well, it may have been because I didn't have kids either, so I wasn't freaking out about my own kids and what they might get corrupted by. And all
I thought
stuff.
it was super cool. Like, we actually read Harry Potter with my mom.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
John Williams. It's a great composer right there. The through line for that for me is when I was in choir at high school, the guy that did all the conducting for the Harry Potter movies directed one of the conferences I went to and like taught us a bunch of stuff. And I was like, that was super cool.
Wow.
Through line. There you go.
I was really confused where that was going for a second.
Wow.
The guy who conducted for the movies
Got it,
conducted
got
a
it,
choir
got it.
I was in once. Yeah.
Well, let's talk. So you guys have done 3 EPs, is that right?
Yeah.
And the first one was just self-titled, Faintheart, and then the second one was called The Overview Effect, and the third one was Growing Pains. And so I kind of want to dive into some of this, but one of the themes that I picked up on as I listened to all 3 of them was this sort of unraveling of things in life, and some of it could be the unraveling of your own self. Some of it could be the unraveling of a relationship, and some of it seemed to even speak about the unraveling of faith. Is that accurate? Do you
All
think?
the above.
Yeah. All of those things
Yeah.
kind of seem to
I
weave their
think
way.
what's interesting is like, I guess I don't even think about it like linearly, you know, but it's like, I think what's really weird and interesting is it also sort of like a time capsule in a lot of ways. Of it's like, oh, like we put out like the first single in like 2016 and then like the whole like self-titled thing in 2017. So it's just like been the past 4 years now, you know. It's like we've been a band for 5 years now, and it's just like these like little time capsules and these moments of like things that I was experiencing or we were experiencing,
Right.
you know, just at different markers in time. And it's kind of interesting to, I mean, I'm proud of everything that we've put out so far, you know, and there's not
Yeah.
anything I'm embarrassed of. So
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we as a band like are just pretty collaborative. I think there's often that thing where it's like, here's the like lead person and they're the writer and the singer. Like they do most of that, and then this is where the music's coming from. And I think for us, we've worked in so many collaborative settings for so long that songwriting has been that in multiple facets. Like, and a lot of songs coming from Jeremy and a lot of songs coming from Tanner, and then a lot of songs being like, these are both of us. Or like I've written a couple songs on there and being like, these lyrics are coming mostly from our conversations and experiences and like working through them together. And I would say like our band is like our community of really close friends going through life together and then making music about it too. So
Yeah. So, so both of those things I want to, dive into a little bit.
Yeah,
One
let's
is
do
the collaborative, the creativity. So part of my motivation in doing the bands is the idea of creativity and spirituality.
yeah.
And then the other one is this whole idea of mental health. And, to me, mental health is a journey of spirituality as well. So is creativity. I mean, just
It's
that's
all interconnected,
how,
right?
I think it is. Yeah. But so let's talk a little bit about your collaborative process, that creative process, how that works for you guys, because I think it is a bit unique, the way you guys have gone about your albums, right? Even pre-pandemic,
yeah,
the way
we've
you
actually,
did your albums.
It's kind of cool because I feel like it's really happening now. I feel like a lot of bands that are forming are doing something, but we've never all lived in the same city. And we've actually done it all remotely since 2016. So,
Yes.
I mean, there's been times like, there's a time, the majority of us were all in Manhattan, but now it's Riley and I in Kansas City, our drummer Hunter in Chicago, and then Tanner, our guitarist and singer, is still in Manhattan. And so,
What do you play?
I play bass.
And then I played like guitar.
Okay.
And it's been collaborative the entire time, and it's been interesting, and just like the way even like technology's evolved, even just like a little bit, but like we can all basically demo pretty well. Like I'm in my apartment, like tracking bass and stuff, and that's been super interesting. It's just how all that's shifted, and now it's like that's the norm now. And so really we've actually written like we've just gotten really into a really good groove, and I think some of it's just like with different focus and the way the pandemic just disrupted everything. But we've actually written like more songs in the past year than we have the entire time as a band.
Yeah. I think to kind of explain it a little bit, someone will bring a song to the table.
Yeah,
and be
break
like,
it down for me a little
Yeah,
bit.
so like
It feels natural you would go on the more technical side of it.
he says that. I'm just more technical brained. I've kind of helped pioneer a lot
No,
of
it's
like
a great strength.
our systems. Thank you.
And it's like some of our touring friends, you know, that we've
Yeah,
helped out too.
totally. I'm a producer, engineer minded person. And so, with the nature of it being this kind of remote band, I was like, okay, how do we solve this? How do we make this the best thing it can be, and keep moving forward? And I think that's where like me joining the band is just an interesting thing, because like they've played together for a couple of years now together.
We had a way of doing things too.
Yeah,
Like, no, we write songs this way.
And they totally do. And even in the band they were in, they had a separate front man. And that Tanner was just playing lead guitar, because Tanner rips on guitar. Like a lot of our guitar lines and things that you hear is just as much Tanner and me carrying it, and we both have these different voices in it. And yeah, we always joke that Tanner's just the best musician and can play everything and do everything better than all of us.
Yeah,
but he's also
true.
the kindest person and the most like collaborative person. But we also would joke that he has the best music ideas in the room, but would never push it.
Yeah.
So it's like he's the sweetest person, absolutely. And so it makes it really easy to be in a band with him and be like, dude, you should be the front man and you should do these things. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But
Sure.
yeah, which I don't think is always the way it is. But
Yeah, I doubt.
yeah, if we can be here and speaking on his behalf and he's 100% supportive of it, like, is great. But to kind of explain a little bit of that process is like, okay, so we're trying to bring these things to the table and figure out how to do this.
So any one of you could bring a song to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like you would literally put lyrics down and do some.
Yeah, I have a pretty bad habit of just sending voice memos.
Yeah.
And I think
And it's just like me and an acoustic guitar, and then
Yeah.
I try to like make it a full band arrangement. And I'm like, this actually doesn't work as well as it does with just me and my acoustic guitar, you know?
Right. And I think that's this whole thing we've experienced in the creative processes. And I think a lot of artists are experiencing this now with the pandemic, is that they're like, how do I do this process that they're used to? Like, let's all get in the studio, get in the same room, either
Get in the practice space,
play it all out
jam
together. Yeah.
I got this
or
riff idea. Maybe we can work on it.
let's play with it a little bit, or being in a studio space for weeks at a time and creatively working through things, where we've always been like, well, we all work full-time jobs. We all do these things. We were in school, or we've always been balancing it at the same time. And then people being like, well, I have this thing in life taking me away, but we don't want to stop doing this. So how do we do this remotely? And so I think because of that, it started to push the creative process and being like, well, how do I communicate an idea by saying like, here's a lick, and then that's it. Like, here's a guitar part. Now can you
I got this
finish
sick
it?
riff.
Or like, can you write
Yeah.
on it? And it gets really difficult. And so I was really pushing people to be like, hey, we are all talented enough to put a full idea out there and let's revise it from there. And so I think that's what pushed most of us to, we all enjoy songwriting, to be like, let's grow as songwriters. And then when you bring something to the table, bring it when you could play it, and then we'll make it better or go from there. And I think that's really, pushed us all to grow in different ways. So that's where it's like,
got to dial your ego back just a little bit when you put it out there for everybody.
yeah.
If anything, I feel like it's actually healthier
Okay.
in the sense of like, I think a lot of times like my initial habits were just like, yeah, I kind of got this little riff idea, and then, but there's nothing more than that. So it gets taken in a direction where I'm like, that wasn't really what I was thinking. But if I can push it a little bit farther of like, hey, I think this is like 85-90% of what I'm thinking, I think it just helps everybody more. Or if they can be like, no, let's do this instead, I think that's totally fine.
Because the second you
It's a
introduce
more complete
anyone-
vision.
Right, because the second you introduce anyone into a song that you're writing or into anything you're making, they're inspired. And they have things that they bring to it that they're going to want to keep running with it in a different direction maybe than what you want to go. And I think what you're saying, like, dial our egos back, is like, we're all pretty good about being like, if that's what serves the song best.
Yeah.
And
that's
like,
good.
we all want that to exist in the best way that it can be. And I think almost to a detriment.
Yeah.
Where we've been pushing like, yo, bring more to the table, bring more to the song, or bring more to the conversation that's going on. If you're bringing the song, why don't you push it farther
Own it a
before you
little
start
bit.
inviting
Yeah.
help or other ideas? Because we've seen a lot of good stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a weird thing we're figuring out. But yeah, technically through the internet, being like, we'll try to record it ourselves, like, a demo or what your idea is, then send it out to everyone, kind of talk about it. And then each person that has their parts will kind of say, cool, this is what I hear you did in this. I'm thinking something like this. And we send it back. But that's been years of learning the technical side of it, where I'm confident that everyone in the band could record themselves at a pretty good level. And like, it's just a really demanding thing to be able to do. But I think that's where we're moving, is that people can record a pretty decent track on their own and send it in, which the the body of work we're working on right now, we're doing it remotely still, where Hunter's tracking himself in Chicago, and then we're doing the rest of it we can here.
It's cool. It's cool. A book I always recommend to anybody that's creative was one called Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmull, founder of Pixar.
Yeah.
And it's just, he exposes the team process of creativity that they go through to come up with, these movies that they've done. And it's just brilliant. And I had a deal at the church called a creative team. Matt was on it. I would bring just an outline to the table, and then I'd have maybe 6-8 people around the room, and we'd start just having like crazy ADD brainstorm sessions around it, trying to come up with a movie clip or pop culture reference or a music this or that, to kind of take a text from the Bible and then mash it up in all kinds of ways. Yeah, like, and I still miss
and application.
There's some things I don't miss about being a pastor. I think we're going to do a series on things I don't miss, but but that creative process to me was so much fun, and I love the collaboration that comes with other minds, with things that people bring to the table, ideas, concepts, music, everything, lyrics. I don't know.
Me too.
That's fun stuff to me.
Absolutely. Outside of the band.
And there's a spiritual dynamic to it, I think.
Well, and that's kind of what I was like thinking too. I feel like even learning, in like my own seasons of creativity, I'm like learning like the creativity within me. I'm like, oh, this is actually like very relational. Like, and it takes, for me, it takes a lot of work. Like I can go really hard and just be like, here's like 4 song ideas. And then I'll be like, I have the biggest writer's block ever for like the past couple of weeks, and I'm like, okay, I need to be a little bit more gentle with myself, and like, how can I work through this? And it's like, it's not so much a chore, it's not so much blue collar, it's more nurturing, it's more gentle, it's more just like showing up, guitar in your hands. Like it's fine if you're not the most prolific or profound today.
It's not about the product. Always like just like what's the process.
That's cool.
Good for you.
That's great. You guys have that kind of team dynamic going on.
We kind of also have like a creativity book club. I feel like we've all big
Serious?
like Austin Kleon fans.
Oh yeah.
See, we're just all good friends, and like it's multiple facets for us.
Bought boxes of that book and gave it away. Feel like an artist.
Yeah.
So good.
And then
That's a good book
I
to
had
give
it
away.
in my bookstore.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
hear that, and I'm the same way. When you said Creative Inc., it's like, yeah, I love that book. I'm also like, any creative book that like is self-helpy, but in a way that I know people are like, oh, I feel stuck or this. I'm like, cool. I buy them a book online and I give it to them, because it's like there's so much. And I think just like I call it creative blue balls that people get into, where it's like I have something I need to express or put out there, but like I just can't do it, and we get stuck and it feels terrible. And I think a lot of it can be a lot of different reasons, like just being down on yourself, being anxious about it, or being stuck on being hypercritical about
Grief,
it. Yeah, grief. There's so many things that can block that creative flow.
I understand
that it's
that.
like, where there's a lot of healing in that expression, or just being able to, like for me, when I write songs, I'm processing things that I never knew I had going on inside of me. Like I'll write it out, I'll write the song, and then in playing it, recording it, listening back, I'm like, that's what I was feeling, or like that's what I was experiencing that I didn't know about. And so like for me, another thing that I do outside of the band is help produce local artists and artists in general that are going through that are like, I'm a singer-songwriter, I'm a songwriter, I've never done this before. And I'm like, cool, let's work on your songs and record them and put them out there, because there's something that I notice in artists that are putting out something for the first time, that there's just huge transformation for them, where like to be able to put out songs that you've had for a long time, or that you have been working on, that you're trying to express something and it's just stuck for whatever reason. Once you can get it out there, I see people like have huge movements, and I think that's incredible.
Yeah. Matt and Whitney were just challenging me to get some of my grief out there again, and I've been trying to do that. So that's really challenging for me. It was my generation, we hit it.
Yeah, grief is sticky,
and
man.
It's challenging.
It's how do we share it?
It's also too you and I did an interview a few weeks ago with Calvin Arsenia, and he talks a lot about putting stuff out there and the risk of rejection or acceptance, and that that whole dynamic with something that you've birthed is
Right.
is an interesting thing. He seems to thrive on that. Like, let's see what happens.
He's a great artist. Yeah.
And then people feeling confident in themselves, though, right? Because it's how much do we put like our own identity in the things that we're making?
Yeah.
And being like, you being critical of a work, because internet and people do that now, where it's like, this sucks because of this or whatever. It's like, but that's my expression of myself.
We're very direct in our lyrics too. Like, we don't abstract a ton, you know.
We try not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah. So let's talk about a couple of lyrics.
Sure.
I'm curious about the mental health side too. You guys touch on that theme. I think that journey is a spiritual journey, and it makes me kind of always wonder. Like, I mean, and you don't have to share, but some of the stuff some of the pain you might have gone through to land on some of the songs that you're writing. And your second EP is the Overview Effect, which I love that title for that EP.
Yeah.
Did you come up with that, Jeremy?
I did not come up with it, but I did discover it. And when I discovered it, I was just like, man, this is so
you're talking
great.
about the astronaut thing, looking at
So if you're unfamiliar, it's like a lot of I think it's in Pale Blue Dot, like Carl Sagan and a lot of those other but it's like, just the more you zoom out, I mean, it's just like we're humans, and it's just like we have each other. And I think what I try to remind myself each day too is like, we're all so much more fragile than you can ever imagine, you know. And there's not much more. Like, I feel like there's just a period at the end of that sentence, you know.
That's a great image. I love that as a metaphor. For those who don't know, like a lot of astronauts, when they look back at the planet Earth from outer space, some kind of an internal shift goes on in their view of the Earth. Mm-hmm. And part of it is how they feel like, oh wow, this thing's a lot more fragile than I ever realized.
Well, and think about it, it's like the International Space Station too. Yeah, that's not just like
and
white Americans up there.
Exactly. Yeah. And then they come away usually much more devoted to, you know,
service,
stewardship of the earth, taking care of the planet, all those kind of things.
And I think for us, it was like calling it the Overview Effect was this idea of perspective, and being like, in that season of life, we were all very much experiencing like, why does it feel like no one's trying to view anyone else's perspectives right now? And like realizing I don't feel like we timestamp our music too much with like current events, which I love that in a lot of music, when they're just like, this is what's going on, this is the context, and I'm writing about it. But for us, it was being like, we're four cisgendered white guys trying to relate to like a very complex world that we're like, man, we don't have.
We're very aware of that too.
I just want nothing to say that needs to be heard.
Stamp
right now.
that for
absolutely.
Straight cisgender white dudes.
We want to support all of these things, but it's like we have nothing to bring to the conversation. But like, there's an experience and expression that we can have, but be like, it's not to draw attention to that.
But I think even with that, the one thing I just like, being in a band is, for like a lot of ways, where like I'm in like a 4-way relationship, you know, and
yes,
the thing that I'm just proud to be in a band with these guys with though, and it's like, we may not be the coolest or like biggest band, but we always make space. Like, you have a seat at the table, you know.
Totally.
And we'll remember your name, or we'll at least do our damnedest to remember your name. Like, it's just like, we want you to know, like, whatever, like, you're valued, you matter, we see you, come hang.
Yeah, we've made friends through that.
Yeah,
they're like,
like most of my friends in Kansas City are like,
they were fans of us, or like, we love your music. Like, cool, want to hang out? Like, we're going to the show. You like, let's hang out beforehand. Like, everyone's just a person here. We'd love to know you. So,
and I think that's beautiful. I think the indie bands in any city around the country, in Kansas City, you do it because you love it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's in your heart.
Yeah.
And even if, I mean, sometimes the reward is just what you just described.
Yeah, there's not money in it.
You meet a new friend. You know, I mean, but there's still something about that creativity, the camaraderie,
right?
The fact that you're putting something out there that touches one life or one person, and it unlocks something in them. So you're processing something then I hear a lyric and oh, that's me.
Yeah.
And then I listen
same.
to that lyric over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh gosh,
I think
that nailed it.
Yeah, I think affect theory is so interesting, of just like the way that creative things bring out different things for people. Like, how does a piece of work cause me to feel or react to that? And it's never the same or linear, or maybe what the person creating it intended to happen.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of beauty in that.
It is. And it's so interesting too. Like, even when I would used to do a message, like, a Bible message,
Yep.
and somebody would tell me what they got out of it. And I'm like,
Like, that's not in the script. That's not, that wasn't my takeaway.
yeah, that wasn't even in my mind, So I'm either a really bad communicator or, something else is going on. And I think it's something else going on, it's like,
Totally.
The
Spirit.
something like that.
Getting what you need out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't explain it.
It's art. It's art. And yeah. So in the overview effect, the song Longfin.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting one. Go
It's
ahead,
so
ask
interesting.
a question.
Yeah. I mean,
We'd love to hear what you hear about it. Or like what you think.
Yeah, we have like all these
because that
things
is an
about
interesting
it.
story
So
on
it
that
got
one.
my attention, and I was thinking about, well, the theme of silence goes through that song, and then coupled up with people's flaws, and so silence to me is an interesting discipline.
It's hard.
Meditation. I've been trying to do. I'm in a mindfulness meditation group, and I'm terrible at it, but I'm trying.
Same.
I'm really learning.
I think that's kind of the point sometimes.
It's so hard for us as like Americans, and where we're at now, it's like.
So but I didn't. I liked the theme of silence, and I liked how you're connecting it to our flaws that we have, and then how sometimes not speaking, but letting it sit and reflect sometimes can maybe be the better thing for healing. I don't know if that's where you were going with it.
Do you want to talk about the music, and I can talk about the words?
It just made me think about that kind of stuff is what was going on in my head. So
For sure. So the story behind that song is really interesting because when I was saying earlier that we wanted people to bring more to the table with songs and be like, this is what's going to happen, or like creatively, it was the end of this record. We were about to go into the studio to start recording, and we had 4 songs. I was in Kansas City, and everyone else was in different places. And I was like, we need another song. And so I went in with a laptop and an interface, plugged my guitar into it, and I like wrote all the different music parts and did the entire song musically. So like drums, bass, guitar, everything, like mapped it all out as a song, and then said, here you guys go. Tanner and Jeremy were together, and I was like, I can't push this any farther. Like, here's a canvas, write lyrics and a melody to it, because we are going into the studio in like 4 days. Can you do this? And so I did this whole thing. It was just like, this is the kind of mood I was feeling. These are like, it was purely just a musical expression.
And I don't think you didn't tell us.
I didn't say anything about direction, didn't say anything about it. I trusted you guys. Yeah. And again, to really lean into that relationship we have and be like, I know that you guys are going to say something that I'm probably too experiencing because I just don't have words for it. So here you go.
Yeah. And so we released that that was like March 2018.
Yeah,
but we recorded it like summer of 2017. I was just going through like a really painful patch at that time, and actually that whole song is actually a reflection on the book of Lamentations in the Bible. And there's like even a line in it that's like, your pain is as deep as the sea or something. And it's like unique. And it's really just, it's questioning God. It's yelling at God from this narrator, and it's just, it's like letting this silence and like letting it just, it's like, what does it mean like when somebody's like hurting to just sit in that with them and not try to fix it and just hold it,
And knowing like each of us, I think genuinely we're experiencing different levels of pain from other events in our life. I mean, like, this rings true. This is something we want to say. We are experiencing people having these moments and being like, I don't have anything for you, but I desperately want to be with you in what you're going through.
Yeah, it's like, for me personally at the time, it's just a failed relationship, a lot of heartache. But I think that hopefully the beauty that you can extrapolate it. Like, I don't think it necessarily matters that it's about like a book in the Bible,
Yeah.
you know, but because I think that's so universal of just pain, suffering, grief, you know, and you can just hopefully apply that to
People always want to give advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and being like a fixer. We're all, I would say, like everyone in the band is intelligent in different ways, and we all want to speak. But I think this is a discipline for us to be like, yo,
Yeah.
it's gonna be good for us to not say anything.
Yeah. I've had some friends that have been able to be silent with me in my pain this last couple of years. It's meant the world to me.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, your newest project is Growing Pains. All right. So we'll continue the pain theme here.
Yeah.
And it just came out just a few months
back
ago.
in November.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
weird.
Yeah.
Time.
It feels, like it feels like November feels like a long time ago, but great songs on that. The balance I thought was intriguing.
I just want to plug Riley for the second here because Riley actually recorded that entire EP.
Really?
Yeah. And mixed it, recorded it, produced it. So
Awesome. Good job.
Thanks.
I
let me
really
affirm
like it.
you.
Appreciate it. Yeah,
it's good stuff.
we've moved into having me do more of that, which has been really, really interesting for our creative process.
Yeah. Good stuff. So the balance.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that one.
So that's a Tanner song.
Okay.
It's coming from Tanner, and it's interesting. I think it was written during a time where I was living in Manhattan with Tanner. And so we were getting
And
together.
I was not. We've done a lot of like swapping around from Kansas City to Manhattan.
Yeah, but it's fun because we get together and just talk about life and process it and try to get through it. And again, like I said, Tanner's just such a sweet person and someone who is moved by injustices and moved by things that he sees going on in the world and moved by just so many things. So he works in
Like a community mental health services.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, and he works with kids. And so some of the songs are about experiences he's had with that and things he's trying to process. And I think this is for him, and I won't speak too much on it, but just this balance between so many different things in his life that feel to be in tension, that he's just like, I'm just trying to love and care for people, and people are, fighting about it, and knowing like his life with different things, there's like intention because, someone you love thinks one thing and, your family thinks something else, or really trying to find what does it look like to have this balance in between, and knowing like for me, when I was hearing his processing of that and knowing that we all have different versions of that, it really resonates to me to be like, yeah, I think for a long time I used to feel like I had to find a balance between the things I was in conflict with that didn't really go with what I believed or was taught to believe at some point, and that I had to reconcile it somehow.
It's like balance means compromise, right?
Right. But sometimes that's not what you need to do.
You can't compromise some things,
And how can
or
you
you shouldn't compromise.
Right. And how can you really find that? And is that something we should be looking for? And I think that's all those things wrapped together. But yeah, to me, it really hits coming from Tanner. Like there's something there.
Yeah. It struck, I did a series one time called Living in Creative Tension.
Yeah.
And really what I was trying to, some people would call it paradox, some people would call it yin yang, some people would call it, I don't know.
Yeah,
some
there's many
people call
forms
it
of
non-dualistic thinking.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But I've that's what it kind of brought up for me, was the paradoxes in life, and of course the faith and doubt. All of those. Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, because I feel like I really leaned into the word tension a lot from when I was younger. Even be like, nah, balance isn't a thing. It's just like tautness, tension, like two forces.
Yeah. I mean, I think of it sometimes like a guitar string.
Yeah.
It's in tune to,
It sings best with those tensions.
Yeah.
Like you got the nut and the bridge pulling.
Everything is a distraction. The father and cancer thing in that.
Yeah, so that's pretty
That's literal.
autobiographical.
Yeah.
I was curious.
Yeah, it's actually been like a weird sort of maternal and paternal. Like the song Chain Breaker is also from my point of view, from the overview effect, and then this is just kind of part 2. So that would have been 2019. Yeah, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. We're good now.
What kind?
Prostate cancer.
Okay.
So, but really out of nowhere, like I just remember them calling me and I was like, wait, this isn't supposed to happen. This happens to other people. This happens to other people's dad, not my dad. And yeah, just confusing, really confusing times of just trying to, and honestly, like, I remember actually like that song, I was sitting at the table, like in my apartment, and it's actually a Sunday morning. And that song just kind of fell out of me. Like, I think I even told you guys, I sent a voice
remember
memo.
that. Yep.
And I cried, like, after, like, I like finished, like, I was like, I think this is it, or whatever. And I just like started crying. Like, it was just like that release, of like, most of the songs like that I write to are just total, I write to process, as part of my creative practice, which I think is very much related to spiritual practices. Like, I write every morning. So, and,
cool.
just as part of that, like, writing and everything, just to process, like, all the junk.
When you say you write every morning, are you talking about like journaling as like sort of like free flow emotion type stuff?
Yeah. So
that's what I do is free flow journaling.
I think about it like,
every morning.
Let it go.
I got to get the wiggles out. Yeah.
And
there's just a lot of junk.
So you're not
me.
necessarily writing lyrics.
Both.
You're
kind of just whatever comes out.
Okay.
Non-judgmental writing.
Yeah. Which is the hard part of not judging it, right? And I'm just like, this wasn't profound enough, or like, this wasn't prolific enough. Like, I feel like I'm tapped, but I didn't fill the whole page, But yeah, I mean, a lot of times maybe something comes out. I'm like, okay, I highlight. I'm like, this is interesting. Let's go expand on this, and then try to maybe take the kind of prose, freeform thought into poetry. But yeah, I mean, that song is, completely autobiographical. So.
Yeah. And then I want to, there's so many I could talk about,
Sure.
but I can't find. And
yeah, that was pretty pointed.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, it reminded me of a scripture verse.
Okay. Love it.
So it's just interesting how
Yeah.
different things
Lay it on us.
pop.
For sure.
But so obviously you're in a church service, everything's, the band's kicking up.
It's cool.
It's supposed
cool.
to be.
Yeah,
There's cool people in the
it's
band.
Nifty.
It's
Yeah.
flashy.
It's
boots and guitars.
There's
Cool boots.
There's smoke machines. There's
Somebody's wearing a cool
lights.
hat.
Anyway,
Lots of cool hats.
You've probably been there before.
Lots of cool hats.
maybe,
Wow.
like almost every week of my life.
I've
Anyway,
been on that stage before.
yeah,
I've been on that stage before.
Yes, you have.
yeah, but then you can't find God there. Yeah. So instantly, Amos 5, there's this Hebrew prophet.
It's
named
very prophetic influenced, yeah.
Amos, and he says almost the same thing. Like it's like God's sick of their worship, and it's like Amos is like God saying, "Take away from me the noise of your instruments," and all these things and the songs, and it's like. And then that's that classic line that my African American pastor friends like to quote so often: "Let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream." And that's a clear, so that word justice in the Hebrew is mishpat, which is
Riley just took Greek and knows all this stuff. I'm just
okay. So
My like social justice is my degree.
Yeah.
So
for
totally.
the Hebrew. That social justice is what that's all about.
Oh, justice appears more times in the Bible than
Yeah.
like most words.
yeah. So anyway, I listened to that and I thought, oh, this is Amos, But anyway, I'm not saying you intended that.
No,
but
and
it just reminded me of that.
For sure. And I think in general, like, I find influence in that. But this is again a Tanner song, and like we've talked about it. And there's a couple of moments of just like, what is it like being in these settings and like reconciling within yourself these types of things. And then in like part of my spiritual belief is like I believe some of that, trying to reconcile that, is somewhat prophetic of like, this is what whatever entity is trying to call attention to or call out of. And I'm just like, yeah, man, when you being able to say that confidently or comfortably or just in general, I think is a big revelation for a lot of people, because I think in some of those settings that we both, Tanner and I, in that conversation grew up in, was saying like, yeah, these are the moments supposed to feel these things. Like this kind of setting is supposed to stoke in you these things. And if it's not happening to you in certain circles, something's wrong with you.
Yep, it's you.
Yeah. And I think for us, and I think for Tanner is again, he's so sweet and a non-judgmental person, or I think he's just like, yeah, I can't. And for me, I would turn that even for me, like, it's not like, and that's where, yeah, that's one of those things that I think, it's the most pointed we've ever been about something. I think it's the most that resonates with a lot of people that I know. And at the same time, I wish I would cuss right now, but just proud of Tanner, because that dude took the most brave step in writing something for himself that was just like honest and out there. And there's a very pointed moment that we all remember where he played this song in front of people that were very close
very
to him.
anxious too,
yeah,
you know, as you can imagine.
To be able to say this to like his family was in the audience and being like, this is me where I'm at right now. This isn't something else. And, you know, going into other conversations because of it. We just are very supportive about bringing things into the light, whatever that looks like for people.
Yeah, you know, the first blogs I did when I started blogging and podcasting 8 months ago, I pulled stuff out of my journal. I got really, like I call it, brutally honest.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
You're
like,
bearing yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, in my tenure as a pastor, I would have quote led thousands of people literally to Jesus. I mean, that's not even an exaggeration.
Sure.
Probably been tens of thousands on multiple continents. And then here I was feeling like I was an atheist, like coming out of all this stuff. And so I wrote about that and put it out there, and I just wasn't sure where it would go. So I would applaud his courage as well, because I know how much.
Yeah, well,
I know,
thank you for your honesty too. You know,
I knew how much it was for me, and I, you know, for me it was an emotional thing, and it was how I felt, and then the places that I went were like the Psalms of Lament, you know, Lamentations,
Right.
Job. Those when I finally, I couldn't read the Bible for a long time, but when I finally did start reading it again, that's where I went. So, at any rate, yeah, good stuff. Well, I appreciate you guys doing this. I would like to end our time with you guys. Maybe can put a song out there, like we can.
Sure.
We can.
Yeah.
I want people to be able to hear your music on the podcast.
Yeah.
So,
What's one that resonated with you that you're like?
Oh, I don't know which one I would go for.
Yeah.
I was going to let you pick.
Oh, there's so many, and it's all different. And I feel like, I don't know. It's always interesting to know what people enjoy.
Yeah.
I would say, since everything is a distraction, is so personal, let's do that one.
I like the mix I did on that one. So I also like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's do it.
So we will put that on the end of the podcast and kind of close this time out with that.
Cool.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing your
thanks
story.
for having us, man.
And everybody, let's talk about how people can find Faintheart on where do they go? Your website is.
We made it real easy.
We are
everything is We Are Faintheart.
We Are Faintheart.
Yeah.
All right. So all the social media platforms,
Yeah.
your website.
Yeah, we were able to claim all of it.
Yeah. Marketing brains in general. We're just like, how do we, what's the SEO on this? How do we get it out there?
Make it easy.
Yeah. We Are Faintheart's the way to do it.
All right. And I noticed on your website, you encourage people to recommend your music to a few of the radio stations out there.
Yeah.
Why don't we mention those real quick, or at least the ones you can recall? I mean, like if they call in and request a Faintheart song, that really helps your music get out there.
Probably Radio U.
Yeah.
Those are our friends in Ohio, Columbus.
Okay. All right.
I know things have changed a little bit with the buzz and homegrown buzz and whatnot. So
Yeah, we missed that.
But
you can get
Ope Radio.
Ope Radio.
Yeah, I was like, we're gonna.
But that's the one. I talk about Ope Radio more than any podcast and more than any other local thing in Kansas City because I'm just like, Ben Went is the dude. And
he's doing a great job with that
and
too.
It's super smart. Like it's one thing to just like check out this local band, but if you can have context
and someone like Ben who gives you great context,
right?
It is,
and you get to listen to 15, 20 minutes of he does long plays on it too, which I kind of liked as well. So yeah. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Thanks everybody for joining us at Spirituality Adventures. We'll see you next time.
If I fall far from the family tree, does it make me a bad seed when the roots grow deep? What do you think of me? Heavy is the head that wears the crown, all these thoughts that weigh me down. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Am I gonna let you down? Heavy is the head that wears the crown. I didn't choose to bear the name, but I still carry all of the shame from the ones that we love and heaven above. Are we more than the things we've done? Heavy is the head that wears the crown, all these thoughts that weigh me down. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Am I gonna let you down? Heavy is the head that wears the crown. For the cancer that grows inside my father. I appreciate your prayers. Is anyone listening out there? There's a block around his heart. The doctor says we've got an early start, not an early grave. Your love is still the same in this prodigal mess I've been. Your love is still the same. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. I'll do my best not to let you down.
Thanks again for tuning in. Remember to visit our support page at www.spiritualityadventures.com. If you like what you heard, be sure to share it and leave a comment. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Harbin Media Production.